All right. It is time for our next run. We're going to get into Final Fantasy XIV Online. Category is all Dungeon Shadowbringers. That's going to be run by Lord Fluffy. The show is yours. Let's go.
Yeah, sorry. I messed up my bit. Hello. Let me start this again. Why, hello there. My name is Lord Fluffy, and this is the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV, which has a free trial which includes all of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward and Stormblood expansions with no restrictions on playtime. Alright, we got the bit out of the way. Thank you all so much, by the way, for meeting the Realm costume incentive. Here we are, you see, representing the original Pictomancer from Final Fantasy VI in all her wonderful glory. So, this is Final Fantasy XIV All Dungeon Shadowbringers. The All Dungeons categories in Final Fantasy XIV are separated via expansions, otherwise the categories would be obsolete every 4 months or so, as well as the fact that, this game is constantly being updated, so things change, things get outdated. Best to separate and combine things via expansions. But the way this works is we're going to be going into dungeons at max level with all of the items, all of the gear, all of the abilities that we have at max level, and we'll be doing that with the unrestricted party option, which removes any and all level sync and item sync restrictions when going into dungeons. And we'll be doing that to complete every single dungeon under this tab here in the Duty Finder, from Holminster Switch all the way over to Paglethan. So, just want to give you all a real quick shout out. You've hit a brand new PB for Fastest First Fall Fest. That is amazing. Excellent job, everybody. You all are goated out there. And also, can we hit 1,700 by the end of my run? I'm giving you all a challenge. Do it. All right. So, we're going to queue up here. The timing will begin when the barrier inside the first dungeon drops. So before we do that, there's one additional thing I have to do. We're going to activate this company action called Fleetfoot. This will extend the duration of my sprint whenever I am inside of this instanced loading zone here by an extra 10 seconds. And ideally, I want to be smuggling this sprint ability into dungeons from outside. We pop 2 pieces of food. Oh, hold up. I forgot you can't pop food while the Duty Finder menu is up. Pop 2 pieces of food. Food increases the damage I dealt as well as my HP, among other things. A lot of things to explain. But we're going to get into the run when the barrier drops. I will count down and let you know. I did not smuggle sprint. I already forgot. Good job. All right, we'll get started in roughly 3, 2, 1, go.
Good.
All right. So, previously, all Dungeon Shadowbringers, as well as most of the categories that are earlier expansions like Stormblood and Heavensward, have been done universally on Ninja. And this is because Ninja is by far and away the most mobile job in Final Fantasy XIV. It has multiple dash abilities, ways to reset the cooldown or store charges of those dash abilities, and a passive run speed buff, which makes it ever so slightly faster than the other jobs, the time save of which builds up over time. Ninja also happens to have some of the highest burst damage in the game, which assists with the more staggered combat of Final Fantasy XIV's dungeon design. However, as of the release of Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, we now have access to Pictomancer. Pictomancer is not nearly as mobile as Ninja is, however, it makes up for it by having far and away the highest burst damage in the game. And since All Dungeon Shadowbringers as a category values your high burst damage pretty much more than movement in almost every single circumstance, the ridiculous potency and burst potential of Pictomancer makes it the ideal choice for this job. So the first thing you're going to be seeing me doing in a lot of cases is making use of my instant cast abilities to hit enemies while I am moving. The most notable of which is Striking Muse and Hammer Stamp. This is an ability that deals a critical direct hit on every single hit. Yep, there we go. That guy is dead. A critical direct hit on every single hit is instant cast, which means I can cast it with no restrictions while moving, and it is a ranged attack, meaning I can hit it from any distance that I want. So, I will be making very liberal use of Hammer Stamp throughout the course of this run as a way to hit enemies at a distance, while also guaranteeing that I will be dealing high damage. And that's a good thing to talk about in Final Fantasy XIV, which is damage variance. There are basically a few ways that damage gets modified in Final Fantasy XIV. The most obvious one, of course, is the is the critical hit. This is your typical critical hit in any given RPG. where it is an augment that causes your attack to deal more damage. The key thing about Final Fantasy XIV is the critical hit stat is the critical hits are affected by the critical hit substat. And the more critical hit substat you have, the higher your chance to critical hit is, as well as the higher damage that critical hit deals. Pretty much, once you get to about the 7.1, the 0.2 patch in every single expansion, the single target damage that comes, what is the words here? I'm trying to think about doing damage efficiently while also explaining video game. Basically, critical hit is the most important substat because not only does it give you more chance to deal high amounts of burst damage, but it also increases the amount of damage that deals. There's also direct hits, which is similar to a critical hit, but it is a flat 25% damage increase whenever you get it. And the direct hit substat only affects your chance to direct hit instead of critical hit, which also affects the damage dealt. And here's a thing to note. You can get both a critical and direct hit combination. So you might enter a situation where you've got both a crit and direct hit, and an ability that deals, say, 100,000 damage is now dealing 270,000 damage because of the additional modifiers. So when it comes to Pictomancer, whenever we enter our burst phases for any reason, the most ideal situation is our strongest hits always critical direct hit. And I'm not kidding when I say this, but a Pictomancer using its strongest abilities in Star Prism and Retribution of the Medine can quite literally save you. Both of those abilities in a burst phase, critical direct hitting, can save you 10 seconds on a boss, depending on what it is. It is ridiculous how much damage Pictomancer can deal. So I've been flying through this dungeon. So this is a good time to talk about potions. These gem droughts that I just used is what's referred to as a potion. This is a item that augments your main stat. And when your main stat is augmented, it increases the damage of all of your abilities because your main stat is directly tied to how much damage you deal. So I'll be trying to make use of these gem droughts and these potions, at the very least on the final boss of every single dungeon, with minor exceptions where I can end up doing 2 potions in a dungeon. So that was the first dungeon down. We now leave and enter the second dungeon, Don Meg. I can answer a question in chat that I just saw. Do critical hits also ignore enemy defense stats? They do not. You do still... the damage stat calculations do not ignore the defense stats for critical hits in this game. That guy did not die, which is really bad RNG, unfortunately. The last part of damage variance is there is an inherent small amount of damage variance that comes with the game in general. Like, 2 hits of the same ability will never deal the exact same damage. There's always going to be at least some level of variance, and I got no critical hit on that enemy, as well as I did not get high damage roll on the base there. So unfortunately, that enemy lived longer than I would have liked it to, forcing me to go back and take it out. All right, so now that we've talked over the damage aspect, we can talk over what makes Pictomancer so good. So the big thing about combat in Final Fantasy XIV dungeon design is it's very staggered. You're not meant to be constantly in combat. And one of the things that's meant to balance Pictomancer's absurdly high stats out is these abilities here, the motifs, the creature, landscape, and weapon motif. You have to cast these motifs in order to have access to other abilities, specifically your Living Muse, your Steel Muse, and your Starry Muse. Your creature motif is one of the most important abilities because all 4 of the abilities that come from it are extremely high damaging bursts that when you cast 2 of them, give you access to either Mog of the Ages or Retribution of the Medine, which are also extremely high bursts. As mentioned, the hammer stamp and strike that you get from Striking Muse is super important for properly going through the dungeon and having an extremely strong showing the whole way through. Need a little bit of focus here, just a moment. Okay. I've lost my train of thought because I had to make sure I was in the right position for optimally AoEing these guys down. Where was I at? What was my thought process? I'm trying to think about this. Right. So The key thing about these motifs is while you're in combat, you have a very long 4-second cast time in order to get these motifs active. So what happens with that generally is you're going to run into a situation where there's going to be periods of downtime where you're not dealing any damage. However, an aspect of Final Fantasy XIV's dungeon design, because of the fact that the combat is staggered, you can pretty consistently get these casts instantly, because when you're not in combat, it goes from a 4-second cast time to an instant cast 1.5 second GCD, meaning that you can circumvent Pictomancer's main weakness, the fact that that in persistent combat, it will have periods when it's not dealing any damage, by being able to just constantly be out of combat, and subsequently being able to cast your strong abilities way more frequently and way more efficiently. So, dungeon design just ends up working out for Pictomancer in that regard to circumvent the need for it to deal with its biggest weakness most of the time. With that being said, we can head into movement aspect things, because as you can see, these dungeons are a lot of running from point A to point B, beginning of the dungeon to the end of the dungeon. So being able to go through the dungeon as quickly as possible is an important aspect to this game. The key ways we do that are with the all-class ability Sprint. As I mentioned before, this button here, I was hitting the wrong button because I have Subtractive Palette. This is an ability that when you use it gives you 20 seconds of 30% increase to your movement speed. There is a caveat there where your movement speed, the duration of the ability will be halved if you use it in combat. So ideally, we want to be using Sprint in situations where we are out of combat in order to get the maximum duration as often as possible. And as before, I mentioned how I had used a Grand Company action, this one right here, Fleet-Footed 2. I specifically used that Grand Company action to give me a buff that if I use Sprint outside of a dungeon in that in-room that I am in, basically in major cities, I can get an extra 10 seconds on the duration of my sprint. And then there is a thing you can do with Sprint in this game, that you can smuggle a sprint from outside a dungeon into the dungeon, and when you enter the dungeon, it resets the duration of your sprint, meaning that you can effectively get a 150% duration sprint alongside... Have to make sure this burst phase goes right here and I don't accidentally look him in the eye. Friend Frog is only friend when I don't look at him. Thank you very much. Leave the dungeon. I don't need to do that. Katana Rava. Here we're going to smuggle a sprint to get that extra duration as I mentioned. Oh, it doesn't affect me in rooms. I have to be out of in-rooms. Okay, that's fine. No big deal. I still get to smuggle the sprint in anyway. So this is the Katana Rava. This is the third dungeon of the game, and probably my favorite dungeon theme in all of 14. I really like how this dungeon sounds. Ideally, we get the kill here. Nicely done. We got the kill of the second hit. All right. So as you see, the sprint duration comes off, but I have another one ready to go, because when you enter instances for the first time, it resets all of your cooldowns. And that comes with an added benefit of all your motifs being available immediately for Pictomancer whenever you enter a dungeon for the first time. Him living with that, Ronka and Thorn living with 1% HP is very unfortunate, because I wanted to get a refresh. This is not great. Probably switch cast this, because I can get Retribution to the Medine. Oh, it's on cooldown. Okay. I will hold Retribution to the Medine then, and just lose a couple seconds to this. Okay. Building resources is important. Alright, so the other aspect of Pictomancer's movement is the single movement ability it has in Smudge. This is a 15 Yalm dash forward that goes in the direction that you are facing. But most importantly, for 5 seconds after you use the dash, you actually have that 30% movement speed bonus that you would get from Sprint. And this is on a 20-second cooldown, meaning that alongside the 20-second duration of sprint that you get every 60 seconds, you can also get an additional 15 seconds of movement speed, the sprint movement speed, with Smudge's extra passive. or rather, extra part of the active every single time you cast the ability, meaning that you can effectively get 35 seconds of sprint per minute, where every other job can only get the maximum of 20 seconds. And Smudge, a 15 Yalm dash is not is not something to scoff at either. That is a lot of distance to cover on a 20-second cooldown as well. So taking use of that, proper uses of Smudge and combining it with the usages you have of Sprint, alongside making sure you're taking as good of a line as you can. Of course, walking from point A to point B, there's always going to be the optimal line, the way that you get there with the least amount of movement. So making sure to take those lines as best you can is also good. Oop, my cast got canceled. I must have accidentally untargeted something. Or it died, one of the two. But yeah, I've been talking mostly about how the game functions and the movement mechanics right now. So we can take this time to talk about Pictomancer specifically, and what makes Pictomancer so inherently strong. So Pictomancer, whenever it reaches, whenever the Starry Muse ability comes off of cooldown, you get an actual essay of buffs, and I'm not kidding about that. Starry Muse, for some reason, has like 3 paragraphs worth of buffs that you get whenever you get the ability. But you can boil down them to, number 1, you get a 5% damage buff for 20 seconds. Number 2, you get a free cast of Subtractive Palette, which augments your main fire combo from the Fire and Red combo to the Blizzard and Cyan combo. And it also gives you access to Hyperphantasia, which is a puddle of painted grass on the ground, which makes your abilities cast faster and makes you attack faster. And when you use all stacks of Hyperphantasia, you get access to an additional you get access to an instant cast of Rainbow Drip, which is one of your strongest abilities. My phone is going off. I forgot to turn that alarm off. I can hear it. It's bugging me. I can hear it back there. I don't like it. I want to turn it off so bad. Hold up. Where is it? Off. There we go. Okay. So, before I keep going into talking about Pictomancer, there's actually a bit of speed tech here that you can do in normal gameplay, by the way. This is a thing that you can do anytime you do this dungeon in normal gameplay. Aggro these enemies, step onto the platform, and then step off of the platform. That will cause these monkeys that otherwise only spawn when there are no enemies remaining in that first set to instantly jump off of the logs and become targetable, allowing you to kill them much faster and with the rest of the group that you were already killing. So that is a bit of a speed tech that you can use in normal gameplay if you want to. That is not specifically just a speedrun thing. If your tank knows what they're doing, they can save you all a good amount of time. All right, coming up on the final boss here. So we're going to quickly just cast a Winged Muse. I should not be casting a Claw Motif here because I don't think I'll get an additional thing. But anyway, the burst phase here is we're going to activate Starry Muse, immediately use Star Prism, which is one of our strongest abilities, does 270,000 damage on that hit. I didn't use a potion, so we're forgetting that here, but that's fine. We'll use all of our casts of Hyperphantasia, get our instant cast Rainbow Drip, which is 1,000 potency, and we'll end it off with using Hammer Stamps, which ideally you want to always have a certain amount of abilities in your burst phase in that 20-second window to deal the most damage possible while under the multitude of buffs that you get from Starry Muse. This class is complicated and also simple and straightforward. It really is a lot to take in sometimes. I did a small thing there, which is a teleport. I can explain that later when there is more to properly explain. I don't think I get this off. Yeah, didn't quite get it off, unfortunately, so we'll do this. Yeah, just do that to take him out. Refresh out of cooldown. Smudge is my friend. We love Smudge in this household. Okay. This should kill them both. Refresh them, albeit I don't have any resources. Okay, so another aspect of that I mentioned here is resources. Resources, when I'm referring to when I say resources, specifically for the case of Pictomancers. I'm referring to this gauge over here that you can see. This is the palette gauge. This shows me how much palette I have, as well as how many white paint and black paints that I have in these little dots. Those are resources. Whenever I have 50 of the palette gauge, I can cast Subtractive Palette, which, as mentioned, augments my base combo into a stronger combo. And I get a free cast of that every time I use Starry Muse. It also refers to how many stacks of Creature Muse that I have, which you can hold a maximum of 3, and these are all very powerful abilities that all deal 1,100 potency on their own. It also refers to how many stacks of Striking Muse I have, which gives me Hammer Stamp, and I can hold a maximum of 2 of those. You ideally, in every circumstance, want to keep anything that you have stacks of, so the Creature Muse, the Hammer Muse, you want these to have the cooldown of it rolling at all times, because any time it's at max stacks, that is potentially going to be additional casts in the dungeon that you don't get to use as a result. So you always want to make sure to keep your cooldown rolling. In terms of optimal damage dealing, we can talk about keeping things rolling. Damage, as well as other abilities, are split up between 2 separate classifications in Final Fantasy XIV. You have your global cooldowns, which are abilities that all share the same cooldown, and then off-global cooldowns, which abilities that that have their own individual separate cooldowns. So the way to deal damage in Final Fantasy XIV, one thing here, want to see a teleport? I just teleported to the bottom of that pit because dashes are silly. So dashes in Final Fantasy XIV, whenever you use them, they just try and push you forward to the location that they want to get you to. And there's a few quirks about that. One of the quirks is down warps, where if you use dashes from the top of a cliff, it will instantly warp you to the bottom of that cliff because, well, to put it bluntly, this game started off in a 1.0 version that was shut down completely. And there is a lot of coding holdovers from that 1.0 version that leads to a bit of jank, a little bit of jank in Final Fantasy XIV. If you want to do that trick as Ninja that I just did, where you down warp, it works with any dash in the game. So this includes Ninja Shikuchi, it works with Forked Raiju, and it works with Elusive Jump on Dragoon. You can do it on any ability that is a dash in the game. And that's because you couldn't jump in the original 1.0 version of the game. That was not a thing you could do, so they didn't let you walk off of cliffs, for the most part. So there's a bit of spaghetti code in that particular regard, where the game says, okay, you are dashing forward, but I have to keep you on ground at all times because it will not take into account your height. It will simply just push you forward on whatever ground is possible to stand on. And if you go over a ledge, but there's ground you can stand on beneath the ledge, it'll just warp you down to the bottom to that ground. And that does save time falling in a few very specific circumstances. All right, so we can show that here once again as we come over to this cliff. We entered the final boss. Yeet! Teleport straight down. Let's enter this fight. We're going to pop a potion once again to deal some damage. Ideally, we should be popping this potion while we are under the effect of Starry Muse, because the additional damage we get from the potion stacks with the damage buff from Starry Muse. However, I'm pretty far off from the burst phase here, and I will not get the full duration of the sprint if I do that, so I'm choosing to use the potion prior to me being able to get access to the buff, just to make sure that I'm getting the full duration of it here. And here's an example of what the cast of using a motif looks like whenever you are in combat. It is a long cast that takes a while to finish. All right, done with that dungeon there.
Mind if I sneak in and talk for a little bit here?
Yeah, send it. I got a long dungeon to run through here.
I would like to point out that if we do get to $20,000, I'm not, and it feels like kind of a soft if. It's more like a when, because we've been doing great work so far. We've got several hours of marathon left to go. I believe we can get there. That would put us at a $75,000 overall given for Trans Lifeline as an organization. I would love to hear that we hit that total milestone for Trans Lifeline by the end of this marathon. That would be fantastic. I believe we can get there. We have great reasons to donate beyond Trans Lifeline being a fantastic cause. There are still the prizes. $25 individual donation gets you entered for all the group prizes for the day, and $50 cumulative gets you entered for the grand prize, which again is that 512 gigabyte LCD Steam Deck donated by Sonic Mega. Hit the exclamation point prizes command in chat, and that will let you see everything you could be possibly entered for.
Yeah, chat, get to that 20K mark. Maybe not in my run, but if you do it in my run, I'll be very impressed. But you can definitely get there by the end of the marathon, y'all. You got this. So this is Mount Gold. I should mention, by the way, that this is probably a very spoiler-heavy dungeon if you are playing through Final Fantasy XIV. This and the next dungeon that I'm doing are like big spoiler points, so you may want to just like keep the audio muted if you want to watch, because otherwise you might have some things spoiled with you about it. But beyond that, we're just going to go ahead and start continuing forward. Mount Golg is one of the longest dungeons in the game, specifically in how lengthy it is. Like the actual like distance from point A to point B is one of the longest in the entire game. So you'll be seeing me make liberal use of sprint and smudge all over the place, as well as trying to kill things in an efficient manner. I think, yeah, I do get these off here. Alright. Have to get close to this guy because he drags me in. Otherwise, we want to... One more GCD. We'll just use this time to build up resources. Alright. Run through the loading zone. Key thing here is whenever you walk through any dungeons that have loading zones like this, you want to make sure that you're not using sprint if you can avoid it, because the cooldown... the duration of sprint keeps ticking during the loading zones, so you can lose upwards of 5 seconds on a sprint duration. So, just a little thing to keep in mind there whenever you are trying to go fast here. Always make sure to pay attention to the smudge cooldown. 20 seconds is not a long time. It goes by in a flash, and you might lose multiple uses of it if you're not paying attention, clearly. That was not supposed to happen, but that's fine. One more cast. Gonna save sprint here because I'll lose most of the duration when I take out this boss. Alright. Next up here. So this boss, I haven't really been talking about the mechanics of bosses, and that's because, for the most part, you pretty much don't have to deal with most boss mechanics in this particular speedrun anymore. They die before you really get the opportunity to take advantage of them. But this one is cool because the faces on the boss itself will correlate to the parts of the arena that you're standing on. So in order to properly avoid the boss, you have to like look at the faces that are glowing and avoid standing on those. Thank you. Thank you for that, Boffrey. I appreciate it. You have to stand in the right position to avoid it. And I think that's very clever. I appreciate when this game has that level of creativity. So I'm going to go for a little thing here of Smudge if it comes off cooldown at the right time. So when I said that the game, whenever you use a dash ability, will try and get you to the point in which you dash to until such time as the dash durations end, I'm not kidding about that. And this is what enables you to warp, but it also enables you to cut corners like I'm about to do here. So I'm going to take this at an angle which warps me forward to the end of the dash, saving me a little bit of time because it's trying to push me around the corner through the duration of the dash. But what ends up happening is I got caught in the wall, so it slows me down a little bit. But then I get past the wall, and the game says, okay, he can reach that point, push him, and get him to that part of the wall. So there's multiple places in dungeons where you can take advantage of that little quirk, not only for cutting corners tight, but also making sure that you are warping downward, as well as teleporting, which we will get to another time. So this final boss here, I'm going to use my potion now. This should give me the full duration. Going to use Hammer Stamp outside of burst, because I believe the boss will die before I would use it in burst. So this is fine. Alright, now we pop Starry Muse to get access to all these abilities. Popping Starry Muse also gives you access to the ability Star Prism. 1400 potency ability, pretty much the highest potency ability in the game with the exception of Hyoshio Ranryu. It is very strong. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, this next dungeon here, I want to say it is very heavily spoilers. If you are not at this point in Final Fantasy XIV and are playing it, I would avoid watching this dungeon for the next, 5 to 6 minutes here, because this is very heavy, spoiler stuff. This is Amarat. And I love this dungeon thematically. I really do. It's so good. Alright, but yeah, so we're going to take advantage of a little spawn thing here. So the second set of ads here will only spawn when one of the enemies dies, so we very quickly use one of our creature motifs to take out that enemy, take out one enemy, to set up the rest of these enemies to being taken out, so we can continue to move forward in the dungeon. And there's certain things like that where progression through the dungeon will be tied to specific things, or there's certain flags and triggers which will that we have to pay attention to when progressing through. For the most part, by this point in Final Fantasy XIV, the way you progress through dungeons is by taking out all the enemies before the artificial wall that stops you from progressing. Single target. So, for example, this gate here is going to open up the moment this Terminus Stalker ends. And now that it's done, we can head into the boss. And that's pretty much the way that the majority of progression halts and dungeons work. You, by this point in the game in Shadowbringers, you just have to make sure that every enemy prior to that wall is dead, and then the wall will disappear in some form. There are minor exceptions to this, and there are also minor exceptions to what causes certain enemies to spawn. And paying attention to these flags can be important for making sure that you can progress forward easily. Okay, so I'm going to focus for this next part here, because there's a few enemies that are... they don't move very well, and I have to position myself in specific ways. So if the host wants to take over with any messages, feel free to send it.
I can do messages. I've got a couple donations we can do. $25 from Galliffer, who says, FF14 is definitely my all-time favorite Final Fantasy game. That being said, thank you so much for showcasing this game on Fastest First. I hope you're slide casting your way to victory with this one. Also, I'm not sure what the inflection is supposed to be on this, but I will do my best. Kiryu-chan! That's probably bad, but I did it.
Kiryu-chan!
There we go. I'll take that.
Sorry.
And then I've got another one from Aura Dragonus for $5. Starwind wanted donos for favorite character. There can be no other. Agent of Inquiry, Inspector Extraordinaire, Hildebrand Manderville. Thank you both so much for your generosity. One of those, Aura Dragonus has gone towards the file name bid for Mersh Paul, giving that guy a little bit more, closing the gap just a little bit between them and T-Rights. And Galliffer's was towards one of our new incentive we open up, which is for an outfit bid war for the bonus run we unlocked. The options for that will be Shadow, Knights, Majima, Cactus, and Clown. That is the outfit bid war for Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, which is coming up after Phantom Hourglass, which is our next game. We have a new... Words are hard. New incentive for that game too, which is a glitch exhibition. That is $1,000 to hit that, which might sound like a big number, but it's not that big. I'm pretty sure we can get there. That is at the end of the run, so we do have until we are basically done with the entire run of Phantom Hourglass to get that unlocked. I believe we can get there, and that $1,000 would put us what's the math is hard. We need less than 4,000 to get to 20,000, so that's more than a quarter of it. I'm sure there's some specific math. Someone in chat might do it for me, but that'll put us a really good chunk towards that 20k milestone, which again is $75,000 overall for Trans Lifeline if we can get there. I believe we can do it. Thank y'all for donating. Keep up the good work.
All right. So small little thing about that boss. You might have thought, oh, can't you just take out the boss before the ad phase spawned? Actually, no. So the boss has the immortal status, which is something that bosses are given, or enemies are given in this game in some occasions. Basically, what it means is the immortal status means that the boss's HP cannot be reduced below 1. Like, it can never be killed while it has the immortal status. So unfortunately, and I have tested this, you can burst it down to 1 HP before the ad phase starts, but it is unfortunately impossible for you to kill it while the immortal status is active, so you have to go through the ad phase. So instead what you want to do is you want to get it to 50% as soon as possible, which is the HP threshold in which the ad phase will start casting. Then you want to use all your burst to take out all the ads before you do 1 or 2 more abilities to finish the boss off when it comes back. All right, and now that's it. This is getting to the final part of this dungeon. So this boss here, we're going to run up, hit it with an ability, immediately pop a potion, and we're going to do all of this burst. So we're going to activate Star Amuse, immediately hit Star Prism, use a Subtractive Palette, then a Comet in Black. We're going to hit the Blizzard in Cyan combo a few times. We're going to do this 3 times to get all of our Hyper Fantasia stacks. Use an instant cast Rainbow Drip. Use one of our Claw motif that comes up. Then we use all 3 hits of the Hammer Snap combo. We get everything under both our potion and our burst for optimal damage. Now, we didn't quite get good damage RNG here, because if we had good damage RNG, this boss would basically be dead. But thankfully, we have enough resources to do another Subtractive Palette, so we should just only have to hit a few more abilities here. Should 1 more Swift Cast should do the trick. And down it goes. That is the dungeon boss done. And that is an example of the way a burst phase will typically go for Pictomancer. All right. Everyone get your jam emotes out. It's time for the best song in the game, or specifically the best dungeon song in the game. Welcome to the Twinning and a Longfall. Teleport.
Oh, this is good music. You're right.
Sorry, I'm just letting it rock. A Longfall is a huge meme in the Final Fantasy XIV community. This was everyone's favorite dungeon track when it came out originally in Shadowbringers. To the point where there are several really good meme videos, and I would encourage you to watch both versions of the twinning.mp4 that are out there, because, fun fact, the memes of the twinning became so huge in the community that the Final Fantasy XIV devs, whenever they had their official Final Fantasy XIV band, the Primals, make their version of this song, they also included its own meme dance, which references those videos of the twinning.mp4, which I highly recommend searching up. A Longfall, the Primals performed at the, I believe is the 2021 online fan fest. It was so good, so funny. I love that so much. All right, here we are at the first boss. We're going to go through the same process here. Just use all of our abilities all over the place. Hope for some very high damage here. By the way, shout-outs to Masayoshi Soken. He is the composer of Final Fantasy XIV. Absolute Chad, by the way. This guy was fighting cancer and still created one of the greatest songs this game has ever seen in To the Edge, the boss theme of the Warrior of Light. And absolute Chad energy is he didn't tell the dev team that he had cancer at all. He only told like the higher ups at Square Enix, as well as his direct superior Yoshi P. And then I remember this Natsuki Ishikawa, I believe is her name. She was the scenario writer for Endwalker and Shadowbringers. She had no idea. So when Soken announced that he had cancer and beat it at that 2021 FanFest, Ishikawa started crying because she felt really bad that she was making him do all of that work. while he was, fighting cancer. And then he said, no, this was a good thing, because you let me pretend like everything was okay, and because everything was okay, I could fight it, so thank you. And, like, that dev team, I love the Final Fantasy XIV dev team, dude. Like, they're all so amazing. Maybe not that Koji Fox guy. I heard he likes to meme a lot. A common thing when this game was re-released in A Realm Reborn was referring to the game as Final Reference 14, a meme reborn. Because holy moly, the amount of references and memes that are in this game it's astronomical how many there are. It is. What's happening here? What's going on? I think I'm fine. Okay, so I must have had a little bit of a hitch with my connection to the server there, because my cast got canceled for a second, and I wasn't sure what was happening there. But that's okay.
Internet, you need to be nice. We're doing a speed run. Please.
Yeah.
Please let us succeed.
Yeah. So one thing that shouldn't affect us, but Final Fantasy XIV is an always online game. So in the situation where the servers went down, which is an unlikely one, knock on wood, I would have to stop. Thankfully, I don't foresee a circumstance where that happens. Come right, it was right. A galleon severed, away with the tide. The stormheads gather, come right, it was right. Illusion scattered, away with the tide. Alright. So, final section here, and then we're coming up to what is my favorite dungeon boss in the entire series, and it definitely has nothing to do with the fact that it references one of my favorite bosses from the Raid series, Alexander, which is my favorite Raid series this game has ever had. Definitely has nothing to do with that. Nope, definitely not. And also has nothing to do with the fact that my absolute favorite song from the entire soundtrack is the theme of this boss. Nope, has nothing to do with it. 0%.
I don't believe you. I'm not convinced by your 0% claims.
Seeking the peace of reason, sheep in a peaceless season, reason to keep believing, waking the beast who's sleeping. This is the Tycoon, based off of Alexander Prime, and I'm not spoiling what, but the lore related to this enemy is really awesome. And the most unfortunate fact about how good Pictomancer is for this run, and the fact that we are now in Dawn Trail, and we outscale this dungeon very heavily compared to last expansion, is unfortunately I don't get to sing the entire song every time I come to this dungeon anymore. I'm sad. Let go this destiny, you're caught in a trance, ever marking time inside a dream, no sign of advance. You see, the mortal core we serve is taught like a spring. Step back, two-step, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, moving on. Next up is Academia Ander, which I have named on my splits My Academia Ander, because I make very topical and current references in today's day and age. So there is an example of a teleport. So a thing with the progression forward of dashes, as I said, Final Fantasy XIV dashes will always try and place you at the location you are meant to end up as until the dash's animation is finished. This means in situations where a wall is blocking you from progressing forward, you can do a little technique where you activate the dash, and then when that wall, at the time when the wall disappears, what ends up happening is you will be teleported forward to where you should be in the dash's animation, causing you, just like before with that corner cut I showed in Mount Gold, to just basically instantly teleport to the location. We take advantage of that in a few locations just to save a little bit of movement through the run. Alright, so not a whole lot to worry about in this particular dungeon, so I'm going to hand it to the host for any messages that are available.
Sure. Let's talk about our shirts. In case you are being like, well, I have some money to spend, but I'm more of a purchasing mood. Perhaps you could buy a shirt. We are thrilled to once again partner with Timberwolf Trading to bring our Fall Fest 2024 marathon shirts to you. Use the command !merch in chat to browse our new Fall Fest 24 designs from Sky Blue Arts, Flux, Rotim, Fizzy J, and Autumn Wyvern. $5 from each shirt purchase will be donated directly to Trans Lifeline. They will be only available until the end of the event, that is today, the last day of course, so do not miss out on your chance to pick one up. You can also check out the entire Timberwolf Trading store online at timberwolftrading.ca, where you can order your own custom stickers, shirts, laser engravings, and more from this furry-owned business.
All right. So one little thing about that boss is, as you noticed, it was actually two of them. The intended way to do that fight is the bosses will swap back and forth over the course of the few minutes it takes for you to take the boss out normally. However, if you just kill one of the bosses outright, the first boss that's there outright right at the start, you will not have to deal with that at all because the second one will spawn instantly. And we have more than enough burst damage at this point to reliably be able to take out the first boss before the second one would even spawn, which is good because it means we don't have to deal with any extended invulnerability phases for that boss. So the final boss of this dungeon, I will say, if you are a fan of Final Fantasy VIII, you might recognize the final boss of this dungeon for that reason. I'm going to give you a hint. It has something to do with GFs. And one of the GFs in the game, or something like that. It's been a long time since I've played Final Fantasy VIII, so I don't quite know if my terminology there is correct, but we all love GF. I love wife, right? Love my wife. Hi, wife. You're probably not watching, but if you are, love you. I'm a wife guy, everybody. Alright, so this boss, again, nothing really major to worry about here. The only thing is to making sure that you don't get hit by these tentacles when they slam down. These tentacles, I believe, inflict you with a damage down whenever you do them. Damage down is a debuff that, as the name implies, lowers the amount of damage that you're dealing, and that's not good. You want to always be dealing the highest damage you possibly can. Don't get hit, everybody. Alright. There's something on my notes that I wanted to go over that I am not remembering what it was. Ah well, moving on. So, at this point, we are more than halfway through the dungeons in the run. Unlike other all dungeons categories, starting with Shadowbringers, the devs only really added one dungeon per patch. With older expansions, you have way more dungeons to go through because the devs would add 2 dungeons or 3 dungeons per patch, or in some cases 2 dungeons and then 1 dungeon. But starting with Shadowbringers, they started to allocate their resources in different locations on the game to have more of other types of content, because as good as dungeons can be, which lately I will say the fight design in Dawn Trail dungeons has been nothing short of extremely good. Please, Square Enix, keep up with this type of fight design. You are doing wonders for my mental health with this game. They are also the most formulaic of the content in 14 by far, because it is basically, you start the dungeon, you kill 1 to 2 waves of mobs, you fight the boss, you kill 1 to 2 waves of, you fight the boss, you kill 1 to 2 waves, you fight the final boss, you're done. Anyway, this is Quetzalcoatl, everybody. Are you a fan of Final Fantasy VIII? Because that is Final Fantasy VIII Quetzalcoatl. Look at her. Glorious. Let's kill. Let's do the burst damage. Oh yeah, I remember what I got interrupted saying before, is optimal damage dealing. So I mentioned before that you have global cooldowns, which are a shared timer that abilities can have, and then off-global cooldowns, which have their own individual timers. The global cooldown, the main way that you deal damage efficiently in Final Fantasy XIV, the biggest thing is the ABCs of Final Fantasy XIV, which is always be casting. So you always, just like your regular cooldowns, as I mentioned with with creature motif and striking motif, you want to always keep those cooldowns rolling to make sure that you don't lose out on usages. And the big reason for that is so my GCD is 2.5 seconds on basic abilities. So let's just assume that's the baseline. Every GCD that you don't have to cast in Final Fantasy XIV dungeons effectively means that is 2.5 seconds that you are saving per cast. And every single time you are letting your GCD not be continuously rolling, that you are not always being casting, that is potentially time that you are losing from, having to cast more GCDs than necessary. So again, you can think of every GCD you don't have to cast as an average of about 2 to 2.5 seconds of time loss every single extra one you have to cast. So this is the rule for dealing optimal damage in Final Fantasy XIV. It's also the rule for saving time in Final Fantasy XIV dungeons. Always be casting. Always be cat girl. I'm a cat girl. Hello, Seeker of Solitude. How are you doing? I have come to deliver justice in the form of lots of potency and death directly to your face. I know that you're not exactly a big fan of this, understandable. But please understand, I need to go fast. So, you are simply but a casualty in my need for speed. Alright, so a fun little thing about this boss is whenever you kill it, the boss does not immediately put you in a state of being out of combat. So as you can see, I'm trying to cast a palm motif, which I should be able to use out of combat, but I actually can't. Because you're still in combat when the boss is defeated at the very end of it for a little bit, which makes this section a little bit awkward, because you are effectively restricted from... bypassing that, as aforementioned, weakness of Pictomancer's design, and you're also effectively unable to get a full duration sprint in the process either. Which is where, Smudge does come into play. The duration of Smudge that you get is not affected by being in or out of combat. But just a little quirk of this dungeon where you just kind of don't get the optimal movement or optimal situation no matter what, because of the way that dungeon boss is designed. Alright. There's another decent teleport. Hello, Linan Seath. How are you doing? So typically, whenever we get to this boss, we don't have... Because of the distance between the first boss and the second boss isn't very long, we don't have a lot of resources, and we don't have a... our Starry Muse is still relatively far off of cooldown. So we want to build up resources here. Specifically, we're going to try and, at the very end of this fight, have access to a Rainbow Drip instant cast for the next leg of the fight. This doesn't always work out because sometimes you end up dealing too much damage. But in this case, we actually did get it. I casted one extra GCD that I needed to. But yeah, we want to end up using the Rainbow Drip here to take out this Draco statue, which I got pretty bad RNG there for damage numbers. I just needed one of them to do a crit or even a direct hit to get a kill there, and neither of them did. But killing that Draco statue is important because these Bellporxes and Paraporxy enemies die a lot easier than the Draco does, which can lead to situations where the Draco is alive and forces you to use a few extra GCDs that you don't want to use. This is another awkward dungeon pull because you have two ranged enemies here. So you want to try and manipulate these enemies together in such a way that you're able to hit all of the enemies together, which is possible, but it does require specific positioning and targeting of enemies to do so. And for this final leg of enemies, this Sir Hamath you want to target first, because Sir Hamath is a healer, which means he can heal these NPCs, and you don't want them to be healed, because them being healed means that you cast more GCDs and lose time, as mentioned. Alright, a few more GCDs here. We're going to build up some resources, because we want to use these resources on the final boss. Have to remember it's starting with this dungeon. Sorry, no, it was the last dungeon that I could start using 2 pots. So focusing on commentary and not that. Remembering things. Speaking of potions, time to deal damage. Alright, so this boss does have a single mechanic that you do have to interact with. This is not a mechanic that you can avoid currently right now. But this boss can inflict you with a debuff called Mortal Flame. If you get his HP to a specific threshold early on, he will instantly cast Mortal Flame, which puts a debuff on you that when the debuff expires, will cause you to just die instantly. However, I did not actually get him to that HP threshold immediately, so he didn't end up actually casting it, which meant I didn't have to interact with it, which is nice. And now we have Anamnesis Ander, and I'm going to pass it off to the host for about 2 minutes or so, because the first part of this dungeon is a completely unabashed, I cannot speed this up in basically any way auto-scroller. So, host, go ahead.
I could do things in a couple minutes, sure. All right, audience, chat. I have been working behind the scenes to get us a little bit of spicy, sneaky, interesting information about this glitch exhibition. Why is that so hard to say? So the $1,000 we need to get at the end of Mr. Shasta's Phantom Hourglass run. Yes, that Mr. Shasta, the one and only. That glitch exhibition, I'm being told, is apparently there is a hardest trick in the game. I'm not sure what that is yet. I'm sure that'll be explained at some point. We can look forward to that. But it is a application or different applications of said hardest trick in the game, which will be a little goofy. It sounds like you probably want to see what's going on with that, because I really want to know again what this hardest trick in the game is and how goofy it can actually get. It's a Zelda game, so you know it can get really goofy. Actually, I think Mr. Shasta might be underplaying that, perhaps for our benefit. So let's get that met, please. Can we get it? I believe we can get it. Again, that's for the next run, the Phantom Hourglass run, but the cutoff for that is at the end of the run, so we do have that whole duration. But please do not wait to push that through to the very end or anything. We don't like having to be all anxious about, are we going to get it? Let's just get it done. Let's get that bonus unlocked, and then we won't have to worry about it. We can look forward to a fun glitch incentive bonus at the end of that run, I believe.
All right. Coming up on the end of the auto-scroller here, I lost a few GCDs, so it is an auto-scroller in the sense that like you can't speed this up in any way besides just taking the enemies out. I lost a few GCDs there because I wanted to hold on to a Retribution of the Medine for the boss, but I should have used it because it would have saved me more GCDs overall, because my RNG on crit direct hit luck was not great in that enemy. But anyway, this is the first dungeon where I'm going to start using potions on the first boss as well. And this first boss is just like the sharks from earlier, a boss that has 2 of them. And just like the first one, when you take out the first one before the game is supposed to normally spawn it, it will just instantly spawn the second one in. So we can take advantage of that. Prepare some of our strong burst for this guy. I think I saved this Mog of the Ages, right? Yeah, I'll lose a GCD, but that's fine. Okay. Yeah, so there are a lot of Final Fantasy XI. I'm seeing people in chat talk about it. There are a lot of Final Fantasy XI looking enemies in this game. Final Fantasy XI was at least some level of influence for the initial design of the 1.0 version of this game. So there is definitely a lot of references to Final Fantasy XI, including the new 24-man series from Final Fantasy XI. Sorry, the new 24-man series for this expansion, Dawn Trail, is directly referencing Final Fantasy XI. And by that, I mean Preesh is literally in the game. Do you think Preesh is awesome? Because I think Preesh is awesome. You should play the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV with a free trial that includes all of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heaven's Sword and Stormblood expansions with no restrictions on playtime. I think this is the first time I did the bit twice in one marathon run, which is surprising because I did All Dungeon Shadowbringers for another marathon 2 years ago, when the category was like 3 hours long. Wait for it! Wait for it! God, that fight is so good. Alright, speaking of fights, this second fight here in this dungeon, we ideally want to see one ability from it, which is the donut attack. I don't remember off the top of my head. I have the Cyclone, that's what it's called. So that's as good. The boss, when it goes down on all fours like this, can cast one of two abilities, which is a donut or a point-blank AoE. And we want him to do the donut because the point-blank AoE is also a knockback, which, if we are not using an instant cast ability at that time, can interrupt our casts, which is something I have to mention about Pictomancer that I haven't mentioned much, which is it is meant to be a magic caster job, in the sense that you are supposed to be casting abilities with cast times, and these cast times can be interrupted in a variety of ways, including, but not limited to, getting hit with a strong enough attack that cancels the attack outright, moving while you are casting it, pressing the escape key on your keyboard will also cancel it. That is a thing. What you're seeing me here is using these hard cast abilities. As a donation mentioned earlier, there is something that you can do to get some level of mobility with these casts, and that's something known as slide casting. So with the way that the server and client connectivity works in Final Fantasy XIV, there will come a point in every cast bar that you do where the cast bar is locked in, where no matter what, the game will say, okay, this cast is finishing. And you can take advantage of that in like the last like half seconds or so of any given cast to, as you can see, move while the cast is still going forward. And that is very helpful because in situations where you have to keep damaging enemies while moving or doing mechanics, it allows you to slide while you're casting to gain some level of mobility. And this is important for some aspects of going fast in Final Fantasy XIV dungeon runs, but also in general for high-level optimization in just normal gameplay as well. So slide casting is an important tool to understand on a fundamental level, like a lot of the other netcode jank with this game. Alright, so that's Anamnesis Ander down. We are coming up on the last 3 dungeons of the run. Next up is the Hero's Gauntlet. This is another dungeon that is relatively spoiler-full, but not that much. But there is a chance here. So those of you might know what I'm talking about, but there is an Easter egg in this dungeon that has a very small chance of appearing, where we will get to see the Gentleman of Light himself, the one, the only, Hildebrand Manderville. So I want you all to get your bets in the chat. I will say, it's not a high chance, but it is possible. Do you think that we will see the Gentleman of Light today in this run? Yes, it is actually possible for Hildebrand to show up here at the end of the dungeon. Wow, I'm actually surprised a lot of people don't know this Easter egg. I'm seeing a lot of people in chat say that they're not actually to be surprised about this. Well then. Oh, the prediction has been started. All right.
I got a prediction for it even. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, so I will reiterate, the chance is not high. It is a much higher likelihood of it not happening than happening. However, don't let that dissuade you. Ladies and gentlemen, as the age-old adage goes, let's go gambling! Responsibly. Gamble responsibly, everybody. Gambling is an addiction. If you have a gambling addiction, please call a hotline to help you to get some help. But gamble responsibly. All right. So, first boss here. Because I used my Starry Muse earlier on, I don't have a whole lot of damage to work with here. But I am going to do as much damage as I possibly can. 99% of gamblers stop gambling just before they see Hildy. True. It is very true. But yeah, the first time I ever did this dungeon, I actually got the Easter egg of Hildy appearing later on in the dungeon. So that was a nice little surprise for me to get my first time going through. That was 236,000. Hello, Feihul. My loveliest of branches. I appreciate you, my non-binary king. Thank you very much for your help. Thank you, Feihul. Thank you so much. All right. So, remember the second dungeon of the game that I was talking over the entire time and not making any reference to in whatsoever? Do you guys like Friend Frog? Hello, it's Friend Frog. He is here. He has come to help us. Hello, Friend Frog. How are you doing? Alright, so these paladins in this particular set of enemies take a lot of time. But thankfully, our good friend XIV, Lord of the Longsome Gates, turns them into toads, which makes my life a lot easier. So with that, 0.1, seriously, oh my goodness. Listen, okay, listen. The amount of times that I will see an enemy live with 0.1% HP, I swear, the game has it out for me sometimes, where it will roll RNG to live them at 1 HP, and I lose a GCD, and therefore I lose 2.5 seconds. It's a conspiracy. They're out to get me, man. Yoshi P is in my client itself right now, manipulating the RNG to hate on me specifically.
Feasting upon your seconds loss. Delicious time. Om nom nom nom. I have a quick donation if I can squeeze that in.
Send it.
I got $10 from Oasis. Put that towards the glitch exhibition and says, grandson calling out to his dead wife always gets me here.
Yeah. That is a side character that's part of the role quests of this expansion. They are pretty damn good, but I love me a Giot. I love me that amazing dwarf. The race is called dwarfs for the record. Easily my favorite character from the role quests in Shadowbringers. So here, as we come to the end of this dungeon, we're not actually going to be able to walk immediately out of the boss room. We're going to have to wait for Titania, another character that's part of the Shadowbringers story, to create us a path to go forward. So as Titania goes up after finishing spinning, we're going to hit Smudge, which causes us to instantly teleport once the wall disappears, saving a little bit of movement time. Lali, I don't get paid enough for this hoe. Indeed. Wait, how does it go? It's like Lali ho, like that, I think. Yeah, that's how it goes. It's been a while. Alright, so coming up after this door is where the chance of Hildebrand Manderville spawning in will be the case. So I will let you know whether or not he spawns in. For those unfamiliar with the visage of the Gentleman of Light himself. So, here we go. It does not look like it, unfortunately. Nope. He has not spawned in and graced us with his presence today.
Dang, not today.
Yeah, unfortunate, but that is how it goes. Can't always get what you're looking for here. So, in this section, I am doing a bunch of slide casting to move towards the next part of this dungeon. This is because the second set of enemies here do not spawn until such a time as the first set of enemies there die, so we just take advantage to build up resources as we slowly move along. So in the meantime, Giot is doing a big old LB onto the Paladin, takes out the Paladin, and we spend the time building up resources to prepare for the final boss. Going to go for another teleport here as the bridge lands. We're going to press it, causing us to teleport to the end, saving again a little bit of time with movement. And now we can head to the final boss. All right, who wants to see a quadruple reave? Because I hit all the Wong buttons. I can speak English. So one thing I didn't mention about GCDs and OGCDs is the concept of weaving. So while your GCD is on cooldown, you can weave in your off-global cooldowns between it. And in optimal playing environments, this being low latency, or if you have that Clippy tool, you can end up weaving 2 off-global cooldowns between every GCD at a 2.5 second GCD. And for dealing optimal damage in Final Fantasy XIV, you're going to want to be getting used to weaving things in between your GCD hits. But now we're coming up to the second to last dungeon in the game. This is Matoya's Relict. This dungeon has Banjo-Kazooie music. You cannot convince me that this is... You put this track in Mad Monster Mansion, it fits. I'm sorry, this is a Banjo-Kazooie track. Just listen. Banjo-Kazooie. Listen. Imagine this in Mad Monster Mansion.
I can already hear it. Yeah, it so fits.
All right. So movement is kind of interesting in this part of the dungeon because this dungeon is very segmented, specifically in the sense that there are a lot of artificial walls, but even when, you kill all the enemies, you still have to wait a little bit for the game to say, okay, here's the place to take you to the next part of the dungeon. So optimizing your movement through here is actually very interesting because there are times when you don't want to sprint, where in other dungeons you would have immediately just done the sprint for the sake of speed. So there's a few locations where you'll see me very purposely avoid using sprint for that reason. I am going to use a Retribution of Medine just to save the time. I think I can get away with that because I'd need way more GCDs on Sonny of Ziggy otherwise. Oh, the potion didn't go off. Well, that's fine. Hello, Mudman. His name is Mudman. It is definitely mud. Did you know this guy has a stack marker? Did you know this guy has a stack attack? If the fight goes long enough, he has a stack. I didn't know this for the first 2 months this dungeon was out because I never had low enough DPS to see the stack marker. That was a very shocking moment I had. Yes, one of the many totally not poop bosses in the game. Yep. No, that chatter, whose name I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce that. You know who you are. You are very correct on this front. Alright. There's also one little thing that we'll get to do at the end of this dungeon, which saves us a bit of time. Which is something that we get to do in a realm... We used to do in a Realm Reborn as well, but we don't need to do there anymore. So you have an ability called Return that you can cast at any time. If you're in the overworld, the Return function takes you to your home point Aetheryte. But if you're in a dungeon, the Return function takes you to the beginning of that dungeon. And the cool thing about it is, because of the non-linear nature of this dungeon, in the sense that it is linear because you're still going through it in a very scripted way. But because of the fact that the dungeon forces you to go back to the beginning of it multiple times, this does mean at the very end of the dungeon, we actually use the return feature to save a bit of time instead of waiting for the game to give us the teleport it intends us to use to go back to the start of the dungeon the final time. When this category was first category was first possible, this dungeon took long enough that you could actually do the return strat twice. Because return does have a 15-minute cooldown, which is why we don't just use it for every single time we take out a boss in this dungeon. Otherwise, the returning would be faster every single time in that particular instance. Okay, put these guys together. Retribution. I missed him, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to take a couple extra GCDs here. No biggie. Welcome to the Raiders. Rex M. Fox, welcome in. You're watching Final Fantasy XIV All Dungeons Shadowbringers here at Fastest Furs Fall Fest. Thank you for the raid. All right. Second boss here. This boss has an extended invulnerability phase, but the benefit of that is the boss has significantly less health than the other bosses in this dungeon, meaning it is way, way easier for us to skip that extended invulnerability phase by bursting it down super quick. So one thing I do have to mention is hammer stamps. You do ideally, in the right circumstances. I did not get... Okay, no, I was about to say, I don't think I got enough damage here, but yeah, it has one more ability before it goes invuln. Okay. But in normal gameplay, you would just kind of use the striking muse to get hammer stamp available immediately upon entering your burst phase. Sometimes you don't want to do that because the things will die before you get to use your hammer stamp, like what's happening here. I did not mean to use sprint here. I wanted to use... Smudge. Unfortunate. Wasted the sprint. That's okay. So you have 3 charges of... whenever you use Striking Muse, you get 3 charges of Hammer Stamp. However, these charges only last for 30 seconds. So it is possible for you to use it on an enemy, and then, oh no, the enemy is no longer around. What do I do? And you just end up wasting the charges, so... it is very important for you to make sure that you are not wasting any potential damage. All right, gonna go for a teleport here as this lava separates. When it reaches its peak, nice. That was almost a perfect teleport. Extremely good timing there. The only way that could have been more perfect is if I didn't move at all at the end of the animation. We can do that on every single time that the our friend frogs here remove the lava in our way. Holy White should do it. Yep, there we go. Okay. Let's go for this again. We can do this on every single time the lava is here. Not quite as good of it on that one, but still getting a pretty decent teleport here. We're going to use this Retribution of the Medine. Hopefully we can save a GCD with it. Alright, didn't quite save the GCD, but that's fine. Alright, so now that we're here, we're going to prep the return spell. We're going to do one more teleport here. Very good. We're going to get all the way over here, and as the frog hits the hill, we're going to activate the return spell to take us back to the start of the dungeon. Because as long as the frog starts doing that little cast animation, the game will progress the dungeon forward. If we do that too early, we would have to go back through that entire leg of the dungeon in order to get back there, because we need him to do that cast to progress the dungeon forward. Progress the dungeon flag forward to reach the final boss. Speaking of the final boss, welcome to the Mother Porksy. The Mother Porksy, just like the second boss, has multiple extended downtime. I did not use a potion. Keep forgetting to do that. It has multiple extended downtime, so as a result of it, it doesn't have as high of health as some of the other bosses in the game. So we're going to take advantage of that to burst it down super quick here. Yep, there we go. And now we can finally move on to the final dungeon of the game, which is going to be our wonderful, amazing, super good Paglathon. And this is the final dungeon of the game, so time will be when the screen fades to black on the final boss of this dungeon, just as an FYI. Getting a teleport to start. We're going to try and take out a ranged unit here with our abilities. Ideal circumstances, we take out all of these enemies in one go. We're not going to get it, so we're going to swift cast this. That was the wrong thing to swift cast, so whatever. We all make mistakes, and we can live with them. You can destroy this debris to keep going forward. As mentioned, most of the time, the game will expect you to kill 1, maybe 2 sets of mobs, then progress forward. There are, as I said, exceptions to that rule. One of these exceptions is right here in Paglathon, where you can pull the entirety of this first leg of the dungeon all the way over to the wall that leads up to the boss. Now, we want to come over here to this Tempered Imperial because this Tempered Imperial is a ranged unit. Ranged units do not like to stack up like the rest of the units in the game do whenever you use abilities. So it's best to drag enemies to those ranged units rather than it is to try and, you know, have the ranged unit come to you in this particular case. I need an audio cue for a teleport here. Didn't quite get it, but we still got the timing of the wall disappearing, so it's not super bad there. Alright, now we go through the motions. Yeah, definitely potion here. But yeah, that pull is one of my favorite ones to do as a tank in normal gameplay. I love it when the game gives me the ability to do an Omega pull like that. And if you're Warrior, you basically still don't need a healer for that pull because Bloodwetting is an ability, and it is extremely powerful. Which that's something to mention. Survivability is something that you do have to take into account the higher the level of the dungeon goes. I don't know, it's only been like, what, an hour and 17 minutes? It hasn't been that long, Astidian. Come on. Come on, dude. Step it up. I was saying something and I forgot promptly because I wanted to do the Astidian joke. That's fine. I do this a lot. Who lives? Okay, yeah. Ranged attacker. That makes sense. Okay. So this next section here, we actually only need to hit these enemies like a couple times each. And the reason for this is we have a dragon helper here named Tiamat. Tiamat does a ton of damage to these enemies. So we don't have to particularly worry super hard about putting a lot of damage to kill them quickly, because Tiamat will do that for us. There's also a situation here where Tiamat will take out both of these dragons with another AoE on her own. However, if we are quick enough, we can take out these two enemies ourselves, skipping the need for Tiamat to kill them for us, and now we can head into the second boss, which is an ad boss. So we'll do that. So I just want to give one little piece of advice for anyone who's thinking they may want to start speedrunning this category after watching this. Please make sure that when interacting with the missiles that spawn here, that they are despawned before you come over to this platform that launches you up to the boss. Not naming names, Fluffy, but some people didn't wait for that to happen and exploded 6 of them in a row, dying and killing a world record pace run. Anyway. Otherwise, this is all about AoE optimization. Just trying to make sure that all the enemies are dead as soon as you possibly can get them dead. I believe it is 2 enemies remaining in the first set and 3 enemies remaining in the second set to have the additional ad spawn. These are the missiles that I talked about. Just make sure that these disappear before you get in position to get knocked up into the boss fight immediately. I don't have any resources to work with here. I don't want to dump this other Holy and Light, but I'll get one more Holy and Light and then dump it, which should let me... Nice. Okay, cool. There's a second boss down, and we're coming up on the final part of the run. So there's a set of ads here, and then a huge wall that we can't get past. So once again, we're just going to do a lot of damage to all of them. Should have kept them together. There's no reason to pull them like that. Okay. Not ideal. Don't want to spend that hammer stamp on it, but I've messed this up a little bit, so I've got to adapt and save some time. Sword on, keen on. So the language that the dragons speak in this game is actually a language that was full-on created for this game. They are speaking like a quote-unquote real fictional language. the Final Fantasy XIV made the language itself. I believe it was partially the translation team led by Koji Fox at the time. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, the dragons in this game actually speak their own completely unique language. They don't speak English at all, which helps because they don't have to use multiple voice actors for different languages. All right, final part here. I am just going to send this hammer stamp because I need the damage. All right, now we're coming up to the final boss of the game. The ideal here is we want the boss to die before it casts Aquarn on us, because that's signifying that we got really good damage RNG if it doesn't cast Aquarn on us. Not looking amazing on this front so far. Yeah, not getting great damage numbers here, so we're going to have to deal with Aquarn. The key thing here is because Aquarn is actually a damage threat to you, survivability is never really that huge big of a deal, but right here at the end of the dungeon, there's a couple places where you do have to consider making sure that you are safe from taking excessive amounts of damage. So we'd make use of our defensive abilities, Addle, which lowers the magic damage it deals by 10%, as well as Tempera Coat, which gives us an HP shield. So time is coming up very quickly here. We are going to be safe from dying for sure. Should be 2 more GCDs. Okay, 1 more GCD maybe. This one's for sure. Time. Alrighty. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Final Fantasy XIV All Dungeon Shadowbringers in, on my screen, 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 24 seconds, which, good thing that I grinded world record a bit harder before this, because that would have been world record if I didn't get a world record yesterday, so I'm out. Alright, so that was Final Fantasy XIV All Dungeon Shadowbringers, and this is not the only All Dungeons category. There's All Dungeons categories for A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker currently. You can have all trial categories for each of those expansions as well. There's a multitude of different ways to speedrun Final Fantasy XIV. You can choose to speedrun the main scenario, once again split up between expansions. You can choose to speedrun the various deep dungeons in the game. There's speedruns for that on the leaderboards as well. There is the New Game Plus speedruns. There is a speedrun for every individual instance in the game. If you think that one dungeon here looked really fun to speedrun, go right ahead and do it. It is extremely accessible in just how much there is to speedrun in this game. MSQ speedruns, I will say, depending on the expansion you're doing, can take anywhere from like 8 hours to 20 at the absolute extremes, which is an investment, but there are multi-segment categories for that as well, so you don't have to sit down for the entire segment for that. Yeah. And I think this is the point where we do the /shake drink emote. Who wants a cocktail? Drink responsibly, everybody. Anyway, with that being said, I believe we were on schedule, so I want to keep us on schedule, so I'm going to do my final shoutouts here. If you enjoyed the stream, if you enjoyed the Verifon run, you can follow me at twitch.tv/LordFluffy, at Blue Sky, at LordFluffy as well. I do a variety of speedrun content as well as randomizer content. I will be practicing Diddy Kong Racing Randomizer and Ocarina of Time Randomizer for other marathon runs in the future. I'm very happy you all have been here and watched the run and supporting Trans Lifeline. My partner is trans, and I believe very heavily in trans rights. Trans rights are human rights, and they deserve to have a place where they can be anonymous, where they can feel safe in talking about what they need and talking about what they their problems in life, and if they are in trouble. In general, Trans Lifeline is a wonderful cause, and I'm so happy to see that we've raised $16,377 for that. You all are awesome. Hope you all enjoyed the run. I'm gonna let it go here. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm going to sleep now, chat. Goodbye. Bye. Bye, chat.
All right, thanks again to Lord Fluffy for that very awesome run of Final Fantasy XIV Online's All Dungeon Shadowbringers. I have a $50 donation from a Fox on the internet who says, "Thank you to the staff and runners that have made this wonderful event possible, and to Trans Lifeline for all the work that you do. As for the incentive name, based on the blue event shirt, I think Link looks like a Captain Awu today," and puts in a new option for the file name bid war for Phantom Hourglass, Captain Awu. And that is going to be it for me on the host mic. It has been a pleasure and an honor to once again be here to again be part of a milestone achieving marathon. I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the runs. I'll see you all in chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your donations. Continue donating. Let's see if we can hit 20K. Again, 20K overall, 75K for Trans Lifeline. I believe we can get there. Thank you all. Have a good rest of the marathon.
Hello everyone, JD Puppy here, and I'm back with another interview, this time with Helix, and she will be our runner for our bonus game, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Welcome in, Helix.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Helix, tell me about Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. How does this game differ from other Super Monkey Ball games that you've run in the past?
That is an excellent first question because this is immediately apparent when the run starts. This game adds a dash mechanic to Super Monkey Ball, which, like, none of us ever expected going in. And then when it was revealed, we all were a little bit skeptical, but also very optimistic. And it has blended in perfectly with the game. And also, the level design really lends itself well to that mechanic, which is also very helpful. As a whole, the game is actually very good, which, if you know anything about modern Monkey Ball, that is a little bit of a surprise, because Monkey Ball hasn't really had a great game since, like, 2005 or so. I'm very excited that this game is actually a lot of fun, very good, and changes up the general mechanic of the series in a fun way.
So cool, so cool. Can you tell me a little bit more of your experience when this game got released, given that you have been a pretty major speedrunner of the Super Monkey Ball community as a whole?
That's there was a lot going on when in my personal life when this game released, but also like when it was announced. I think it was announced, if I remember correctly, like the day before my birthday this year. And so I was like, well, that's probably the best birthday present I could have gotten. And then they were very stingy, I suppose, with information leading up to the actual release of the game. So we didn't have too much to go off of and figure out, like, is this game going to be a good speedrun? What should our categories be? Will it be good? And so when it finally released, I remember this was the day before, June 25th, 2024, when it released. This was the day before I got very busy with GDQ things. And so I did like a 10, 12-hour stream that day, just playing through the entire game. And then I played it a bunch at GDQ, of course, and like the practice room and such. And then I got back from that and just spent like weeks upon weeks just grinding the game as much as I could. And it's been very cool to, not only get to experience a brand new Monkey Ball game that is actually good, already having this experience with the series, and already having somebody with a platform who's kind of known for this sort of thing. Very, very privileged to be in that position as well. Also, just seeing the community come together surrounding this game has been awesome. Plenty of people who, ran Banana Mania, the most recent Monkey Ball game before this one, or some of the more classic games, people who have run other things, not in the Monkey Ball series, first-time speedrunners, and it's just been so cool to see everyone come in and, not only play RTAs, but also do individual levels. There's a lot of competition for that. And also some of the community leaders who have stepped up have just turned out to be wonderful people. And now, I mean, somewhat recently, this game got into GDQ actually as a race between myself and Moo, the top two English-speaking runners. So even stuff like that, and Moo is not someone I had really ever interacted with before, so I'm super excited. It's a great time to be a Monkey Ball fan, I'll say that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, that's so cool and really neat to see just all the different aspects and dimensions and personalities and community that's been able to come around this. All right, so tell me about World Tour as a category. What does this mean?
Yeah, that is not what that means is not immediately apparent, but if you've played the game, it becomes apparent because there is a time attack mode, and you can play every world individually, but there's also an option for World Tour. That is the first 10 worlds that make up the main story of the game. There are 20 worlds overall, but those last 10 are like extra bonus content. So World Tour, which has ended up becoming the most popular RTA category, is just the first 10 worlds. They're obviously a little bit easier than the extra worlds, but to that end, they are far more optimized. And there's just, especially considering the dash mechanic, there is some absolutely ridiculous stuff that is pulled off, and the run absolutely flies by.
I can absolutely imagine that. So cool. So you've been part of the speedrunning community as a whole for a while. In what ways is speedrunning today different compared to when you first started?
That is a great question. I feel like, personally, I am so much more aware of the community as a whole, and so much more aware of like my own skills and strengths and what I like to do regarding the community. So I feel like I have almost changed, maybe more than the community has. Um, it's also been really cool to see speedrunning become, I don't want to say more professional, but feels like we know what we're doing more. And again, that might just be me, because I certainly know what I'm doing more than I did back in, 2017 or whenever I really started getting involved with this. But just seeing events like, Fastest Furs, like Midwest Speed Fest, even GDQ and some of the bigger organizations, I mean, really just top to bottom, the whole community, sort of refine our craft, get better at hosting events, get better at playing our games, get better at knowledge sharing, and I think become a more accepting community as a whole, largely. I think it has changed for the better in many different ways.
So awesome. And speaking of community and people being accepting and open and accessible, Fastest Furs is really proud to be supporting Trans Lifeline once again during Fastest Furs Fall Fest. As a member of the community, what does the Trans Lifeline as a organization, as a resource, mean to you?
Clearly, it means a lot. I mean, look behind me. But I'm just very glad this resource exists. I am in a rather privileged position myself to where maybe I don't need to take advantage of it as much as some others might need to. But just even having that option there, even as a backup, is so reassuring. And I mean, I know it's a great resource for like a lot of my friends and the community as a whole. Yeah, it's hard to put into words, but it is incredibly reassuring and incredibly uplifting to know that this resource is there and to know that there are people dedicated to supporting trans individuals.
So cool. Well, Helix, it was absolutely awesome being able to interview you again. We've had this pairing before in the past. I was super excited to have had the privilege to be able to interview you again with such an awesome game that's going to be coming up. So, folks, please, you're not going to want to miss a run of the Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble World Tour if we meet that bonus incentive. So, folks, let's definitely cheer on Helix. Let's get those donations in. Let's support Trans Lifeline. And Helix, thank you so much for the interview.
Yeah, thank you as always.
Hello, everyone. It is Captain Kate here. You are currently watching Fastest Furs Fall Fest 2024 in support of Trans Lifeline. We are proud to be raising money for Trans Lifeline for the 5th consecutive year. Founded in 2014, Trans Lifeline is a crisis and peer support hotline run by trans people for trans and questioning callers. Calls to Trans Lifeline are fully anonymous, confidential, and use informed consent when connecting to resources outside of the hotline. Operating in both the US and Canada, Trans Lifeline needs our help to meet the ongoing demand for their services, and we hope you consider joining us in supporting their life-saving work by using the command !donate in chat. For more information, you can visit translifeline.org. Hi, chat. Hello, hello. As I said, my name is Captain Kate. I'm going to be your host for the next few hours here as we dive into our run of Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, any percent in just a few minutes here. Chat, I want to ask you all a question. Have you seen this game before? Have you played this game? I know for me, when I am coming into a marathon, I kind of have a balance between I've never seen this before in my life and I want to know what it's all about, and then also the games that I have a super close attachment to and I want to just dive into them even deeper. So let me know where you're at with this. I would love to know because I did not play this game growing up. So in terms of speedrunning, this is kind of new to me. I'm very excited. And if this is a new run for you, I want to let you know it's about 3 hours long, so that means I'm in my comfy clothes, and I wanted to let you know that you can be too. The reason for that is we are thrilled to once again partner with Timberwolf Trading to bring our Fall Fest 2024 marathon shirts, one of which I am wearing currently, to you. You can use the command !merch in chat to browse our new Fall Fest 2024 designs. Those are from Sky Blue Arts, Flux, Rotim, Fizzy J, and Autumn Wyvern. $5 from every shirt purchased will be donated directly to Trans Lifeline, and they will only be available until the end of this event, which is tonight, so don't miss out on your chance to pick one up today. You can also check out the entire Timberwolf Trading store online at timberwolftrading.ca, where you can order your own custom stickers, shirts, laser engravings, and more from this furry-owned business. I see a lot of you are also comfy. I love this, I love this. Love the comfy crew. We're gonna have a comfy run tonight. We're actually gonna have a comfy run with the new world record holder of this game. Can you believe that? Can I get some hype in chat for this? This happened like 2 days ago. I am so excited for this. Speaking of exciting things for this run as well, we have 2 open incentives. So I want to let you know we have a file name bid war. That is for, of course, the file name of this run. We've got a pretty stiff competition going. I'll let you know where that stands in just a few. And we also have a glitch exhibition that we have not yet hit. So if you want to hit that, get those donations in now. You do have until the end of the run, but I know you don't want to wait that long because I want Shasta to tell you all about the cool stuff you're going to get to see. And for those donations, it looks like we have $23 from JD Puppy towards the file name bid war, going to the one and only Marsh Paul. JD says, donating $1 for each 1,000 of channel points I received from that prediction. That was from our last game. May the next coming of Hildebrand be a happy event for all in the critically acclaimed MMO RPG Final Fantasy XIV, which has a free trial and includes the... Oh, and we're out of characters. Thank you so much for that donation, JD. And it looks like a fox on the internet is coming to challenge that with the name Captain Wu. And that is a donation of $50 who says, thank you to the staff and runners who have made this wonderful event possible, and to Trans Lifeline for all the work that you do. As for the incentive name, based on the blue event shirt, I think Link looks like a Captain Wu today. Well, as a captain myself, I would have to agree. Any name with captain in it is a win for me. Now, given those amounts, I do want to tell you something else a little bit cool about this event, which is that we have prizes, and I know everybody likes a good prize. Thanks to the incredible generosity of our Fastest First community, we are thrilled to offer a different assortment of prizes as well as a unique grand prize for each day throughout the event. During our weekend stream, that's yesterday and today, cumulative donations of at least $50, like a fox on the internet just gave, during the stream will automatically qualify you to win our weekend grand prize, which is a 512 gigabyte LCD Steam Deck donated by Sonic Mega. Additional prizes are available as well if you make a single donation of at least $25, and for a full list of those prizes available each day, you can use the command !prizes in chat. I want to give a quick shout out to our raid from Batty Princess with a party of 8. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to let you all know, if you are getting comfy like me and you tend to get a little sleepy when you get comfy, not to fear. Fastest Furs is proud to welcome Dragon Roast Coffee as an event sponsor for Fall Fest 2024. Dragon Roast Coffee is a dedicated coffee for gamers and the gaming community. Their small, passionate team puts their hearts into roasting coffee to order, and each batch is roasted with the mythical heat of Dragonfire, infusing a touch of enchantment in every sip. You can use the command !coffee in chat for a link to their website, dragonroast.coffee. While shopping, enter the promo code FALLFEST at checkout for 10% off your order. Plus, for each 12-ounce bag of coffee purchased, Dragon Roast Coffee will donate $5 directly to Trans Lifeline. It looks like I managed to get a couple of you hyped up about that glitch exhibition, and for good reason. We have a couple more donations there. We have an anonymous donation of $28. Their comment is that you know that smiley face with the 3 for the mouth, the cute one? What is that called? The one? You know, that's the sound it makes in my head anyway. We have $28 for that. Thank you, Anonymous. We also have $25 from Ramsey Fox, who says, "One more for the road. Thanks so much for a great weekend." Also going towards that glitch exhibition. And we have $5 from LordFluffy, who says, "Had a blast being able to show off Pictomancer. Thank you for having me fastest first staff. Good luck, Shasta, on Phantom Hourglass. If I had a nickel for every time Shasta followed me on a marathon, I'd have 5 or 6, which isn't a lot, but it's starting to seem like a trend." Thank you so much, LordFluffy. Also going towards that glitch exhibition, which means we are inching ever closer to hitting that. I'd love to see some more in for that. :3 just doesn't sound as charming as whatever sound I made a minute ago. I know that's the technical term, and there's a lot of tech in speedruns, but we need like a colloquial name. You know what? How about this? Can you come up with a name for what this is called? I've seen like one person say it, but I'd like to get some ideas going here. Donate with that, including that face, so I know what you're talking about. Get a couple bucks in, get that towards that glitch exhibition. Let's see if we can figure out a new name for this. Cutie3, I like that. Cutie3 is what I'm gonna call Shasta and his 2 co-hosts for this, because you gotta be cuties to do speedruns. It's a rule. Everyone who does speedruns is a cutie.